Hello, this is Andy Klepner. In today's video, we'll be going over the differences between padding and margin in website development. Let's get started. In today's video, we're going to be working with the page builder to have you understand a little deeper of the way that padding and margins work within elements of your web design. So oftentimes I see that when a person is building out their web page, they don't have a real grasp of the way that the padding and the margins work, exactly how elements move around a page. Oftentimes they're using margins and padding to force elements into the exact position that they want, which doesn't exactly work correctly. And they don't understand why it looks one way on a desktop and a different way on a mobile device or another kind of laptop or anything like that. Basically, they're very confused about how to make the elements on their page move around in the right way on their website, on their web page. Inside Go High Level, we have the ability through our landing pages to be able to move the elements basically anywhere that we want on the page and to give a really beautiful layout. But we can't do that beautiful layout without first having a deep understanding of the way that margins and padding and borders and all that kind of stuff, the stuff that's around an element, work. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go a little deeper into that. Once you go through this, you'll have a real grasp of the way elements work within your web design. So let's get started. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to understand what padding and margins refer to. Padding, this is the space in between the content inside of an element and its border. So this is the content and this is the padding. You could almost imagine that the content would be something like furniture. You could imagine that this could be your couch. This could be your grandmother's vase. This could be any amount of thing that you could be packing. So if you can imagine, let's pretend for a moment that we're moving. The web page is kind of like a moving truck. Now, this is an example, of course, of a moving truck. This moving truck has all of our boxes because we're moving somewhere. All of our stuff is in this truck. Like I said before, you have your grandmother's vase in here. You have a piece of furniture in here. Maybe if you have your flat screen TV in here. You might have any amount of elements, trinkets that are important to you. Now, we need to think of responsive web design kind of in the same way. You would imagine that your images are in here, your video is over here, you got some text over here, and it all works to create a cohesive environment so that we can get from one place to the other. Now, that's a lot of the way that it works within the elements of web design. So we have our piece of furniture, we have the padding around it. You can imagine this like the bubble tape, the packing peanuts. And around that is the border. This would be the cardboard box. And then the margin is the space in between those boxes. So if I go back to my example over here of the truck, the element is inside, deep inside. All right. There's packing peanuts. I'm showing that right here, but just pretend it's inside of the box. That's the padding. The border is the literal cardboard box. And the margin is the space, you can see where my mouse is, just in between those. Like here's a bigger example. That's a big margin in between things. And you may stick something in there while you're moving. But in our case, this is just space in between the boxes. And it works to efficiently work together. All right, so let's talk about how we make this work inside of Go High Level, inside of the page builder. If we go inside the page builder, here's an example with an image. In this image, I have created, and I'm going to show you how to add this really quickly. We have created a section. I'm going to recreate this again. I hit this plus sign. I'm going to click on full width, and that has given me a row. And then I have the choice to make a column. Now, that column could be anywhere from 1 to 6, and actually it could be almost infinite. You don't really want to go more than 6. They're just giving us these 6 as examples. But when we add a column, we just drop it right in there. And if we're like, I think I want 2 columns for this, we would actually just hit this clone right here, and we would get 2 columns. And as you can see, we can just go nuts. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, and as you can see, 7. So we can, like I said, we can go crazy. Now I'm going to delete this and just start again. I'll add the row, I'll add my one column. And then I'm going to add an element. And as you can see, I've already done this up top, but I'm going to click on an image. I'm going to grab an image from the back. I'm just going to choose this one right here. And that's a pretty big image. I'm going to delete the one up top here so you can see my example a little bit better. And I'm going to give that a width. It put in a 1 on its own, but I'm just going to delete that and put in like 600 so you can see that. Now, if you can imagine, the section and the column are kind of like the moving truck. The section is the environment that it lives in. This is the road. This is the road that it's in. The column is the moving truck, all right? The element right here is the box. This is the way it works. So if you can imagine the element, this picture that's right in here, this is the thing that we are moving. Now we can put that thing in a box. So we would do a border. So let's grab a border. We're going to go to advanced. We're going to do a border. Let's just do a 2-pixel thumbnail border. And that's going to give us a border. As you can see, that's a box right there. And now let's just say for the fun of it, we want to add some padding. These are the bubble peanuts outside of our element. All right, outside of our element. Now, this works a little differently because it is an image. This is going to be easier to understand with the text. But that would be the space in between the border here and the space here. Now, unfortunately, we aren't given that ability inside of Go High Level. We can't do that kind of spacing in here. So this may not be the perfect example, but we can at least experiment with the margin, because as you can see, I have 10 here. See how I have 10 there? Now I'm going to add a background color so that you can see this a little better. Now, you see how I have kind of like 10 pixels right around there? And I have 10 pixels here, but you're like, Andy, there's this huge space in between. Well, that has everything to do with my width of my element and the width of my row. If I go over here to my row, I can actually change the dimension of my row. But as you can see, do you see that? This still has the 10 space. I can't get rid of it. I can't get rid of it because I've said it has the spacing. So this border that you see in here, this is not your true border of your element. This is one that is kind of manufactured outside. So what I often do, instead of using it like this, I use inside of the column. So with the column, you can imagine in this case, the column is the box. In my column, I can do an actual border. I'm going to do a full border, and I can leave 2 pixels and I can leave it black. And as you can see, I have that. Now this column has its own padding. You see that there? So if you can imagine, I'm going to go on the actual image in this case. I'm going to make it zeros, and that's going to eliminate any of the spacing. Right there. But around my column, if you see here, I've got 5, 5, 10, and 10. So this is kind of like my box. And what I can do is I can increase that if I choose. I just click on this and I go to 20. And I'll just go with 20 all around. And as you can see, I have my nice, efficient spacing around my element, because it's inside the box. The column is the box. The image is the piece of furniture. The spacing over here, this padding, is the packing peanuts. And my margin is what's outside. My margin allows me to move this element within the row however I want. So if I add, let's just put something big like 80, it's going to bring the area down. And as you can see, even though this row also has padding of 15, it adds another 80 based on the margin of my column. So this all can be a little overwhelming and kind of confusing. The best thing that we can realize, the best thing that we could do is try to understand, and as we adjust, we're moving things incrementally and getting that padding just right so that it looks great inside of an element. So now I'm going to show you inside text, and I think it might make even more sense to you. Now we're on our text document. I've already taken the liberty of adding a text element in here. And as you can see, I have the element, I've got my column, I've got my row, and I've got my section. The section is the road. The row is kind of like our truck. The column is kind of like the interior of that truck, the box on the box of that truck. And then over here, we have the actual element. This is our piece of furniture. So we have our text in here. Now, oftentimes I will have clients, and I'm going to show you a really big example of this, who, in order to get their image over to the left or into the center and have it nice and tight, they will do these really weird things where they will add a lot of different margins and padding to make it work. So what they'll do to get this to more over the left, they'll add a bunch of padding over here. So they'll do like 140, or worse yet, they'll do something like 400. And that'll be like, oh, I got it over to the left. But what they did is they just stuffed this. And then they want to put in an image over here and they don't understand exactly how that works. This is not the efficient way to do something like that. And we don't want to do it. The way we want to do it is we would put this back at 0. And instead of first, shoving more packing peanuts to make this thing work, we got to give it the right size box, the right size, kind of like truck to be in. So what we do is we take the row and we change the width of that row. See how that works there? Now I've got that tighter box. Now you may be saying to yourself, wait, but I wanted it to the left. The way I would move it to the left is there's this align right over here. I click on the align and I go to the left. And as you can see, this is more on the left side of the page. If I do it on the right, well, you guessed it, shoots over to the right. Now, this is a very efficient way to move things. Now, I still have this element inside and I can add padding to it. So I can add, I want to add more packing to the box. So I'm going to put 40 on that side. And I'll put 40 on this side. I'll put 40 on this side. And I'm going to put 40 on this side. And you're like, well, Andy, you're just kind of showing me the white space. Now, where this gets really efficient is when we do the background of this element. If we hit the background over here, and I'm just going to choose a random color. I'll use something light so it's easy to see. Now you can see how they make those cool boxes that would move around the page. All right, so we have our basic combination here. What we're now going to do is we're going to create another road with which is the section. We're going to create another group of columns so that you can see how this works practically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another section. I'm going to hit the plus sign here and I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to add a row. And I'm going to do 2 columns. Now, in these 2 columns, I am going to create the left side with content, words, and on the right side, I'm going to add an image. And we kind of want to maybe make our image smaller than the content on the left. So all we need to do is in this, we can change the column widths, as you can see here. And then I can add my text copy right here. For practicality reasons, I'm going to delete this row so that you can see this happen really easily. I hit add element, I choose a paragraph, and I'm just going to increase the size of this just a little bit right there. And I'm going to grab some copy to throw in there. And there we go. Now, I'm going to take this copy and I want to move it to the left. There we go. And I'm going to make the background of my section, I'm just going to give that like a light gray color so you can really see it stand out. And now I'm going to add my image over here. And I just click on the image, I upload the image. I'm going to use one that I've used previously, and there's my image. Now we can have some fun design on this page. Now I want to make this that yellow that I have before. And if I do my background yellow, there it is. But do you see how the words are butting right up against the edge of my box, which is my column or my text element? So that's where I'm going to add my padding. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to add, let's put in 20. Actually, let's zero that out and let's make sure we've done it on the text, because I was actually doing it on the column. I'm going to do the padding here, and I'm going to add that 20 in there. Do you see how that worked? Now I'm actually going to increase that a little bit because I think it would look better at 40. And then I'm going to do the top, and then I'll do the bottom, and then I'll do the side. And now we can kind of read it within its own context. Now with this, let's just pretend for a second I want to add a little bit of border. So in that border, I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to go to full border. Now we could have chosen bottom, top, side, which way we want our box. But for this reason, I just want you to see the full border. And it's already set to 2. And you can see that black border all the way around. Now we have, in effect, a real layout. We have it where we have the text on the left-hand side. We've got padding around it so it's easy to read. We've got the image on the right-hand side, and we can move things around. But now this is the magic. This is where the fun stuff happens. We can use things like margin to make these overlap and start looking really, really cool. So I'm going to take this column, and if I manipulate the margin, you're going to see, I'm going to put it I'll just do negative 100. And as you can see, it's now overlapping. But wait a second. The words are being covered by the image. We don't want that to happen. So we go back into here, and then we change, you guessed it, the padding. But we're going to increase the padding on this side so it looks just a little bit better. So we click on that. We're going to go to 140, and there we go. Now we've got this cool image overlapping our element because we use the margin, because that's something you can't do in a moving truck. You can't kind of have things invade and on top of each other and shoved in, or else you destroy all your goods. But we don't have to worry about that in web design. We don't have to, that's not something that exists. We can just overlap things. And that is exactly how we work with padding and margins inside of Go High Level, inside the page builder. So I'm going to show you one that I'm going to fix for a person that I've worked with before. Now, in her design, she didn't understand the context of the way paddings and margins work. I'm actually kind of building this video so that she can watch it and understand a little bit better of how that works. What she has done, as an example, here is her element, and it is inside of a column. But look at what she's done here. This column, for some reason, is pushed all the way over to the left. And as you can see, it's got your basic margins, and this is the element, and it also has the basic margins, but it's got this huge margin of 200 over here, which is what made it move over there, and this negative one over there to pull it in from the side to make it shorter. Now, if I go to the row, which is also up here, you'll see the row. That row is basic, it's set up, but if I go to the section, you'll see 150 negative margin to make it work, all to move this over to the left. So what we're now going to do is we're going to make it so that it does move to the left in a much more efficient way. So I'm going to create a new section. I did full width. I'm going to grab the background. She loves that background, and I think it's cool too. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to paste it right here. And that's going to pop it right inside. Then I'm going to add a row with one column. And then I'm going to add the element. And I'm just going to drag this element down into the section. And as you can see, it's kind of in a weird space. And now you can see all that extra padding that's put in there. So I'm just going to eliminate all that stuff. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm just going to zero it out. Okay. We're going to zero that out. And we're going to get rid of this extra 50 margin there. That doesn't need to be there. And then we're just going to eliminate that old one. So now we have the words inside of here, inside the element. And it still looks kind of good, but she wants it to line up here. Now, the easiest and most efficient way to make this work is we click on the row, and all we got to do is change the width of the row. And this is centered on the page. So this means whatever she created here is not actually centered. It looks centered to our naked eye, but as you can see, there's less here and more there. But this is definitely centered, and it looks good now. So now we're going to use this element, and we're going to create this element below this one. So we're going to make another row. We're going to do the column, the single column. Now I'm going to go to this first one to see how much I did. I did 82. For efficiency's sake, I'm going to do 80. Change that to 80. So that way when I make this one, I can also make it 80. And then I'm going to add another column. I do that by cloning the one that I have. And I want to put her image on the right and her content on the left. So now all I've got to do is I'm going to click on this other content, just grab the file so I know what it is. And she's got a ton of padding and things to make this thing work. You see how it's overlapped and it's all over the place? Please understand when I'm doing this, I'm explaining it. I'm not making fun of her. This is a very, very common thing inside of web development. It's just understanding the way boxes work. So we click on add an element. We're going to go to image. I'm going to drop an image holder in there, and I'm going to paste my image. And there we go. It's got a little bit of padding around it, but I think that looks kind of cool. All right, and then we've got these words, this hospice nurse information. She does great work for people. So I'm going to just drag this element, which doesn't look like it has much in it, so it should be okay. And I'm going to put it inside of that element. Got to grab onto it. It looks like it does have some extra stuff on it. Oh, it does. Here, look at that padding. So we're going to hit 0. We're going to then go over here. And we're going to 0 this out. And for this context, I'm actually just going to change the size of these words. And that's going to be nice and clean. Now I want to use this information. If I click in here, right, inside the element, this is all zeroed out. She's done a good job on this one. She hasn't added anything more there. So all I got to do, if I can do it, it's a little hard because of this overlapping, so I'm going to delete this. I don't need that anymore. I'll probably delete this column too. Now I can grab at the element, I can drag it, and I can stick it right in that area. And as you can see, compared to the way the element was before, it's laid out really clean and really efficiently. Okay, I'm going to delete that section because we don't need it anymore. And what we would do is we would go through the rest of the areas on the website to make this work well. And if I just click on this section, you'll see she's probably got some extra padding and some margins inside of, it looks like a column or a row. I think it's inside the column on this one. Yep, -100 right there. We don't need that anymore. That looks a little better. But all we need to do instead of adding a whole new section is all we got to do is add another row. We hit the plus sign. We hit the column. I'm going to do this at 80% again. And then I just take the content, make sure that there's nothing in it. I'm just going to drag it in there, nice and clean, and get rid of the one that wasn't built out correctly. And we would just continue to do this throughout the whole funnel. I'm going to take this one, make sure it's 0. See how this says -50 and -40 in order to shove it in there and get it in right? Again, we're going to 0 this out. 0. 0. All right. And then I just drag it underneath there. Now, these are butting up against each other. So in this case, I would add padding. I would go to this padding here, and I would add, let's just say for the sake of this conversation, 40. And it looks really good and really clean. Now, that's the efficient way to work on a page. In my case, I would actually probably center this. I think it would look a little bit better. All right, and we would add some more elements in here, maybe take some of the spacing away. There's other elements that are used in spacing, like this is the line height. I'd probably bring it over like this and clean up there and maybe add different sizes with different rows and different columns and different elements and have a really good time with this page. But anyway, as you can see, that's how we work with paddings and margins. If you like this video and this kind of content, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.